I've been toying a lot with AI. I've been messing around with ChatGPT a lot, and I'm constantly working on how we can integrate it into Market Pro, which is our current CRM system, to the point where we can upload a text campaign, and the goal is to have the AI be able to communicate with people based on predictive cues that we're triggering and building into it, that can help us to close more deals, right? So the answer is yes. We're always working and developing a lot of tools. I'm between AI and generating that into our CRM system so that we have some artificial intelligence machine, at least, that we can plug into it. And addition to that, man, I've been in the trenches, Isaac, building out funnels for the community. So on the back end, we've put together like the video production, and we are making a heavy push over the next few weeks to start enrolling people into the investor syndicate, where we'll have like open up all the back end trainings, right? So we have a lot of tools on the backside, but I'm going to start putting together systems and processes for onboarding wholesalers that want to scale their business. Like, hey, instead of just doing the solopreneur thing, these are the steps that you need to put into place. I have Google Docs and operating procedures that are written out that we can copy. And then we have weekly trainings that we start to implement it and really build the foundation so we can build a predictable business. But to your point, holy cow, I'm going to say this. Artificial intelligence should scare the shit out of every one of us, because in the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to replace 90% of our jobs. Hands down. 90% of the jobs that we see today are going to become obsolete because robots, artificial learning is going to be able to change it, right? And so all of us right now should be learning, studying as much as we can around the AI systems and figure out how we can implement it. There's an interesting post from Billy Jean that just stood out to me today. And he did just real short. He says, will artificial intelligence replace marketers and real estate investors and everything across the board? Answer is absolutely, but not all of them. He talked about how he's doing some MIT classes and hearing about the financial implications of mass adoption of this tech is going to devastate the economy. He led on to say, many will beg for universal income. That's scary as shit. That's scary as shit, right? Between VR, AR, and AI, entrepreneurs have, he says, zero chance of competing with this computer-assisted revolution. Record numbers of jobs will be lost in record time. It's not fear-mongering. It's some scary stuff, right? So that's not to, again, make anyone scared or nervous, but it's to press upon the importance of now is the time to really take action and learn and utilize these tools as they're coming out, because they're going to change the entire game, right? Just like the .com era, right? And the web, the internet started to get introduced into society, what, late 1900s or 1990s, early 2000s? Look where we are now. We all live with the cell phone in front of our face 12 to 18 hours a day, right? This was a disruption. AI is the next wave, right? And it's just going to continue to get more technologically advanced, weird, creepy, crazy stuff. With that said, Isaac, I was actually thinking I'd love for you to take the mic for a minute, if you'd be willing to share some of your key takeaways from Grant Cardone's Unbreakable Challenge, because I sat through a few days of it, on and off, right? I need to go back and review all of our lessons, but man, like now is the time to really hunker down and get with a community, right? A community that we can hold one another accountable and figure out how we can develop the tools and utilize technology that's already built, the existing infrastructure. How can we build tools and build them into the future so that we can end up on the other side of this separation of wealth? Because we're in the largest separation of wealth in history. It's happening right now. And if you don't see that, wake up, right? It's terrifying stuff. But Isaac, if you'd be willing to share, man, I'd love to hear some of your philosophies and key takeaways from what you gathered from the challenge.
My key takeaway is basically comes down to the foundation. And that's where he started the whole thing, was your foundation starts with getting your mindset right. Like if you don't have your mindset right, it's just not going to go for you. You have to have that foundation right. You have to be able to understand that this whole system that was originally projected to us when we were smaller, sit down, shut up, go to the corner, you have your assigned seatings, only be spoken when spoken to, go to lunch, come back, sit down, shut up again, go off to work, so forth and so on, submit 50 years of your life, and then we'll give you a gold watch at the end, and then you could retire. Like they're basically just using your battery life. And that was the old way that it was just, it worked. It had its time, it had its prime, and it worked. And that's how we got to where we are today. But everything always gets outdated and there's always a future. And that's what he was trying to like basically awaken us to, like, hey, you need to snap out of it. You need to start thinking more about making that dollar bring you back another dollar and using it as a tool, not something that you put on a pedestal and idolize. So the minute that you can shift that mindset of, okay, when I obtain a dollar, I cut that into 4. I go ahead and I pay my bills with it. I have my little savings fund. I have my, the other quarter goes to investment. The other quarter goes to donating. Like every ounce of it gets used in the most efficient way. And after you get that mindset, then it's about, okay, now I understand this is how the world works. Now I need to go ahead and I need to market it to whichever my audience is. And you need to be able to determine who is my audience all the way down to the nitty gritty. I'm talking, what is their age? Where do they hang out? Where do they not hang out? What do they like, not like? Well, you basically understand what I'm saying. Like get down to stereotyping, down to any detail you can. And the more laser targeted that you can get, the more easier it is for you to be able to put your promotion in front of that individual. And that's what it's all about. Promoting, promoting, promoting. My doors are open so that you could come in and be able to understand how my product, my service, or my technology is best going to be able to solve your current problem so that we could exchange money for service. And then once that money is exchanged for service and you've made that sale, now you're able to go ahead and use those profits from that sale and put that into a process. And once you have that process built from the profits, and it's like, all right, cool, this is easy. We have protocols, we have a process, we have an infrastructure where anybody that were to come into this current position has it all listed out. There's no failure. I can be able to easily bring him in and be able to fill this position. So now that I have the people manning the process, so now the whole thing is being run. Now you, as the company owner, the original one that had the vision on where it's all headed, can now step back and it can actually work on the company once more again, and then scale it out on a much more grander scale. And then that's when it gets into the break points, which was where Brandon Dawson went into it. And him and his wife, they're just like Grant Cardone and his wife. They're a power couple. And just like what I see with you two, that's why I'm so excited when I see you two working together. And then on top of that, you guys get the feedback from the real estate agents that are in team members with the wholesalers that are submitting deals to you guys. And once they get incorporated in that ecosystem, they're like, man, this is the most smoothest system I've ever been a part of. This, I wish I would have been a part of this 2 years ago. This is efficient. And that's what you guys are building. So you guys are headed in the right direction. So we got the promote, you get the profit, and you put it into a process. You get the people to man the process. You step back, you scale the company by mimicking it. Basically, you take that same thing that you built and you mimic it, and then you master it, and then you multiply it. And then there's one other that I'm forgetting, but I'm sure you guys understand.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Thank you for sharing that, because I even took some notes of what you said. It made me go back to this old slideshow, a pitch deck of a presentation that I gave a couple years ago when I spoke at one of these RIAs. But if we look at the evolution of society, right, and just like human beings going from the agricultural age, right, and before this was like, caveman age and hunter and gathering and all that stuff, right, but whenever civilization started to get a little bit more advanced, the first age was the agricultural age, right? 18th century, we're literally just tilling the fields, planting seeds along the way, right? And then when we come into the 19th century, it's where the steel industry blew up, right? It's where we started to see railroads expand across the entire United States, right? And big industry rose up. That was the industrial age, right? And what Isaac was talking about when he first opened up was just that, right? The way that we're programmed, the way that the traditional education system is built and established, even the way that we think and the way that we act in many ways, it's built upon the foundation of the industrial age. Why? Because that's the age where our parents' grew up. Our parents grew up inside of that age, kind of on the, most of their working life, we were still in the industrial age. So just the habits, the routines, the school bell going off, right? Exactly what Isaac was saying. It's fitting just for this, right? And so we're in a major transition. And I feel like we've gone through probably 2 or 3 ages in the past 20 years, right? So the internet technology came out. We have access to the World Wide Web. That just opened up to literally you could find access to any and all information, any literature, any data points that you need, almost for the existence of humankind, at least from documented perspective. So instead of having to go to a public library to browse down these rows, right, we had access at our fingertips, right? And then that moved into the conceptual age, where having access to all this information, we figured out ways to implement that and get better, right? And again, with the rise of AI, we're kind of moving into this conceptual age and even past it to like artificial intelligence. Scary as shit, right? But when you look at the progression, like things are changing so quickly. And if we don't learn how to adapt with the change that's happening all the way around us, we're going to get left behind.